Okay, so we've got our highlights and our downsides of, movies and TV shows that we've seen this year. So let's look back at our episodes. Do you think we made any mistakes?
How many should be the question?
Yeah, exactly. Well, nobody's perfect, even you. Is there any you can think of?
Yes, I think at times names, for me, especially with like Game of Thrones and also House of the Dragon is like, oh, the princess, Rhaenyra. Yes, Rhaenyra. And I think like getting the names, like if you don't like have a full list of the characters' names in front of you, it's like, okay, Aemon, Daemon.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I know. It's true. I think we should probably in future just have a list of them.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about the what was it? Neutral good, neutral bad, neutral neutral evil, and neutral. That was difficult. Like, what was that character's name again?
Yes,
and then Laenor. Especially when they're so similar as well. Like, that's a tough one to do, especially with like fantasy universes.
And I think with Game of Thrones, because we had literally eight series of like hearing the names over and over and over again, and like Ned Stark is close to an actual name that we know.
Yeah,
Jaime,
exactly.
Like Cersei said throughout the whole series, it seems like their names have been said over and over again, so they're ingrained in our minds. But it's like the first season of like, and also if you've read the books, you've got the names in your mind as well. Mm-hmm. And also, it seems like in House of the Dragon they don't say people's names as much as they do in Game of Thrones.
They don't say people's names as much?
Yeah, because like I was just thinking, like, how many times in season 1 do they say the name like Eddard Stark? And it seems like because everybody knows who everybody is in House of the Dragon, they rarely ever say each other's names when they're talking to each other.
It's probably more realistic because in real life, I'm not going to address you by your name every time. It's only when I want your attention or if there's multiple people in a conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, like the first season of Game of Thrones, you had loads of people who hadn't met each other. Like when the Lannisters go up to Winterfell at the beginning in episode 1, you get all of their names because literally they're announced. Because one, they're royalty, and also it's the first time like the royal family has met the Starks as well. So that then you get everybody's name, and also it was like a introductory episode because like in that episode you were able to see all of Eddard's children, excluding one who isn't his child, but we find out later is actually his nephew.
Yeah, one honourable guy, honestly, pretending that he had no one and then taking it for his. Yeah, taking a bullet for a little child. That's so sweet. Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting, just names and getting confused. Like, I struggle with TV shows like Andor. I still don't fully know everyone's names. But then that character ends up dying. I'm like, oh, cool. Well, not important. But
one less name to remember.
Yeah, especially if I'm watching from like series 1 of a new TV show. That's always a struggle. I usually just describe people based on like what they look like, what their role is, and just sounds so I'm not very eloquent in that respect at all. Thinking on like some mistakes I've personally made. I mentioned it already, but for example, I was in episode 9. I said it's episode. I was like, welcome to episode 9, but it's actually episode 10, and Jeffrey, our Lord and Savior, edited it saying, actually episode 10, and the screen pops up in the corner. Oh, how foolish of me. Another one was, I said Daemon Targaryen's dragon, Caraxes was like the Bloodworm and Caraxes is two different dragons, but it's actually Caraxes is the Bloodworm. I was just talking out my arse there. Even though I read the book, I was just wrong. Definitely. I can't really think of any others. Luckily, our audience members haven't pointed that out yet, I'm sure they'll wake me up in the middle of the night and be like, oh God, what have I done? Maybe when we get big, we'll have to worry about death threats coming through our post.
Angry Reddit's about us. Oh, these Two Maesters don't know us.
Yeah, they're spreading fake news. The fake Maesters. Actually, speaking of Two Maesters, so one thing I thought that'd be good for this episode is to actually look at some of the comments we've had on some of the posts. And
yeah.
look at some of the views as well. I know that sounds a bit vain, but I've watched a podcast recently where they just looked at it and it's just hilarious. They're like, oh, we only got like 5 views. Thought we were better than that. And it's somewhat amusing. But let's look at the comments. Mm-hmm. So I had a look through beforehand because obviously I'm not going to read out comments where they say something heinous about us. Not that there are any.
Thankfully.
But yeah, I've been careful and selected. So episode 3 has a great comment where someone calls us the Maester Debaters. Nice work, guys. We'll be back for the next show. It makes me think, what, Maester Debaters? The Two Maesters Debaters? Like, I'm a bit concerned about that problematic title. But yeah, thank you very much, A Kindly Beast, who said that for episode 3 a little while ago. And then I think there's another one on episode 4, which I think, if I remember correctly, this is quite nice. Let me just move along. Let's see what it says. Oh, your face comes up immediately. Yeah. So on episode 4, we have a comment from... I'm not going to say that name just in case it incriminates them. But it says, that's good work. Want more of this, you and Josh. And they've changed their profile picture to my face from, I think, one of the earlier episodes.
Oh, no.
And I am really flattered. Yeah, you know, but I've got a fan. Yeah. You know, I might just comment and leave my number. Who knows? It just turns out to be me. It's just a fake account I've set up. But we also have some nice ones there, like Cassinus. Well, sorry, not that Ann Wilson. Sorry, I've just revealed them now. Not that your comment wasn't nice. Just I'm glad you've taken my photo on board. But then Cassinus Paul, who said, can't wait for the next episode. Lots of love to you. So nice to hear that from people, you know, to actually have our fans respond. And I've got to admit, like, I've had really low expectations. 'Cause whenever something starts, especially a podcast, to get your name out there, especially if you're not in a famous industry, your views are going to be like minor. And I think our first episode. Oh, should we play a game? How many views do you think our first episode got? Let me just skip through. Sorry for any noise. Ooh, tell you what, let's mute my laptop.
Maybe 40, maybe?
40, you say?
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm going to go with... 60. So our first episode, 37 views. So well done.
Yep.
Well done. Good work. But then, you know, we look at episode 2. Oh, why am I still hearing this? Episode 2, we had 31 views. Oh no, we scared off a few viewers. But then 54 views on episode 3. Then episode 4, wow, buoy, out of nowhere, 13k views.
Yes, yeah.
Wow, I don't know what's happened. Maybe it's the fact that this person who's got their face on their profile, my face on the profile picture. You know, it's escalated. It's gone up, and like it peaks and goes up and down, but that's progress.
Yeah.
We're big. We made it. Woo!
And even to that, like going from like using Zoom in our own houses, and like now that we're in a studio, we actually have like a proper intro, and it feels like more. I love
our new intro,
and I think it's
Thank you, Jeffrey.
It's a lot easier like talking in person. You get to have like a proper conversation, and I think like when you're not in person, it's like one, you can't really get the atmosphere of the room as well, and also I think that it's more relaxed. You can have more of like a conversation with the person and less of like because every time you use Zoom, it's most likely to have like a formal meeting. So therefore, you always think, oh, I must sit up straight. I must be formal. But then having like being in the studio, you can basically just have like a conversation with someone and then discuss things that you're really interested in.
Yeah, I think so too. It feels more free flowing, less forced. Also, just you're less likely to interrupt people as well. That's something I just noticed at work. Just like Zoom calls are terrible for accidentally interrupting people because it's not just watching their lips move, you know, before you see someone talk, but also like some people tense up, they lift their shoulders and stuff. So you can kind of pick up on those social cues more. And I've got to say, looking at some of like our, the intro was still pretty good for our original one, original few episodes on Zoom. But I love this new intro. Like, it's so cool. Thank you, Jeffrey. You are the master puppeteer behind all things. His ego is going to inflate after this episode. Can't be having that. But then listening to some of the beginning episodes, for example, I was using some wireless headphones and I didn't realize how bad the sound quality is, and I use that for work, and it literally sounds like I'm calling someone from a train that's about to go underground. Like, and there's some glitches along the way. Like one of the episodes, I think our video malfunctioned, so it is actually just a podcast you just listen to, which, to be fair, is fine because you don't have to be looking at our faces all the time. And it's definitely got better since coming to these studios. I can't remember what episode was it we came in.
I think maybe episode 5. I think we came in, yeah. And I think, to like your point, like being in the studio, you then don't have to think about like Wi-Fi issues. You just have to record the episode, and like on amount of times we've been on Zoom that either I've been muted and then I haven't been able to unmute myself, or you've been muted, or the signal's gone, or internet's gone, and you're like, oh my days, all this just. And then I think it's like more relaxing because the process we've gone over and we've done over and over again, so it's ingrained in our minds, and it's just basically sitting down, having a conversation, and us actually enjoying the podcast, and like less
socializing,
of thinking,
terrible.
and less of thinking like, oh my days, is the internet going to go anytime soon? Is my brother going to walk into the room and then I'm going to have to pause it? Is someone going to knock at the door and I'm going to have to quickly then get an order and be like, oh, sorry, Morgan, I just need to quickly pause it and let me get an order. But then it's really nice actually being in the studio because it's like a select time where you can actually record with no interruptions.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. And I think, especially like the modern world with all these like video screens and stuff, we're just looking at screens all the time.
Yes.
Like our phones or TV screens. Like we finish work, especially if you work from home. Oh, I've just finished work looking at screen all day. Okay, time to relax. And you sit in front of the TV and stick the TV on.
Yeah.
Not saying, no, I'm not judging, like everyone does it. But a couple of years ago, I was having issues with insomnia and just reading about like blue light and how much that affects our sleep as well. It just made me realize how important it is to find activities that are away from the screen. But I know, not everything works in person. Some people really do enjoy the virtual calls. Maybe our audience viewers, maybe say whether you prefer, tell us, do you prefer video calls or talking in person? I feel like most people are going to say in person because lockdown was just too much of that. Way too much.
And also, I think also just the increased audio quality as well. I think they would also be happy about.
Yeah, no, I mean, your voice sounds so crisp. You sound like you have a voice for a radio. It sounds so beautiful coming from here. Like,
oh my God.
And, oh, man, this thing as well. This
soundboard,
yes. This soundboard is the thing. I've offered to, like, let someone else have a go at it, but it's just my toolbox, I've got everything here. And in case you haven't heard what they all sound like, I have the high ground. I don't know why that's still on now. That's from our Star Wars episode.
I'm a Chingu fan.
Well, that's one of our favourite guests that came on, D.
LOL.
That's my favourite one. I love it when I try and play the right one. End up pressing that. Sometimes it sounds better with these than others. That's one I have to too much because I think I definitely swear a lot more than you. So endless. And yeah, it is great being in the studio. So, we've spoken a lot about, reflecting on what episodes have done, what we think of just generally like pop culture and stuff this year. In terms of like next year, what are you looking forward to in terms of TV shows, movies, or how even video games? Although maybe we should say that for the gaming segment. But you can say anyway.
I would say I keep on mixing this up with like Secret Invasion and Secret Wars, but I think it's Secret Invasion, which is it's going to have Nick Fury, Samuel Jackson, Don Cheadle with War Machine, Martin Freeman's going to be in it with his character. You're also going to have Emilia Clarke in it. We don't know.
No, is she going to play? That's weird.
That's the thing. People are like, is she going to play? Because we know that the Skrull, the ugly green aliens that are in the Marvel universe. We first see them in Captain Marvel.
Oh, I still haven't actually seen Captain Marvel. Actually, I think that needs to be on my to-do list.
Have you seen Far From Home? Spider-Man Far From Home?
Nope.
Okay, so
I'm the worst in Marvel.
The Skrull are basically this group of aliens that basically can turn into other people, and then they can take on, in the comic books, they can take on the abilities of the people they turn into. So, like, for example, if they turned into Mr. Fantastic, they would be able to stretch
Super
as much as
elastic, yeah.
they look exactly like him. And I think maybe even have like some of the memories, I think, as well. I'm not too sure about that, but they would look like them and be able to have their abilities. So I think what's happening is that the Skrull in the comic books, they did this invasion where they would replace like prominent superheroes, so therefore they could then take over the world.
But wouldn't it be good? Why doesn't one of them just become? Oh, mine in Marvel. Yeah. Oh no, I was going to say why doesn't one of them just become Superman? Because surely he's
literally.
but DC universe, yeah.
Yeah, so I think in the comics they replace Captain America, they replace I think Iron Man as well, and I think they replace Nick Fury, and I think instead of like focusing on superheroes, they're going to focus more on like politicians, which I think would be a lot more funny. Like literally, like if they replace the American president, they replace the British prime minister.
That would explain a lot. Sometimes, like when they say politicians, when they try and act like ordinary people, it just looks wrong. Yeah,
there we go.
They've been
that'll be
replaced.
perfect.
It's the Skrull. Oh my god, yeah.
And like imagine like if the head of the FBI was a Skrull.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like really cool because then it's like back to the Marvel going back to the espionage, and literally you can't trust the person standing next to you because they could be a Skrull, and that all the decisions they've made could be to basically enable the Skrull to take over the world. And also, how long have they been a Skrull?
Yeah, that's
and
really
like how
cool,
they've been taken. And I think that in the comics when I read it, and sometimes when they show it in the cartoons, it was always cool. Like, what episode did Captain America get replaced? Because like the way that they always do it is that
that's
they do it slowly. So basically, they continue doing stuff that Captain America would do or Iron Man would do. Well, unfortunately, both those are both now dead in the Marvel Universe. So they'll do something similar that Nick Fury would do or Spider-Man would do. And then bit by bit, they'd start to change their stance. So then you're like, okay, so when they made this decision where they're a Skrull, or when they made this decision where they're a Skrull. And I think it's just really cool because then you do not know who to trust. And I think that's the perfect form for an espionage film. And I think it's a film. It might be a TV series, but that's one of the things I'm looking forward to this year.
Yeah, I'll be keen to see that. Sounds like a different kind of bad guy. Because I got a bit bored of Marvel. It just all seemed very formulaic. There's every movie, bad guy, the good guy is some sort of underdog, or they've got some sort of issue. They overcome it. The bad guy almost beats them up, and then they always defeat the bad guy.
Yeah.
I thought Infinity War was really good, to be honest, because this isn't even a past, this was ages ago, because it changed that formula. Like the bad guy actually won in it. And what Endgame I thought was cool, but I just thought, they go back in time, of course, because like the bad guy can't actually win. They have to go back in time and change everything. But these Skrulls sound interesting because that actually has such a long-running consequence.
Yeah.
That how long has that been going? Could we rewatch the previous Marvel movies before and see little hints? Have they thought that far ahead?
Now that would be amazing because you do have like, so in the spoilers here, but if you haven't seen No Way Home, it's coming up to 4 years old. So basically in the film you've got like Maria Hill, so the woman from Have I Met Your Mother, so not the main actress, I think her friend who's a Canadian actress, she plays Maria Hill, and she has been replaced by a Skrull, and so has Nick Fury, but they're friendly Skrull because they were saved by Captain Marvel in the Captain Marvel film.
Right.
So one things we do find out is that there's an issue in space that Nick Fury's gone to help Captain Marvel with. So they've sent basically 2 Skrull to replace him in the film. The
What,
Spider-Man.
as good Skrull?
Yeah, so they've replaced Nick Fury with a Skrull. And it's kind of funny because
God,
like,
I wish
in like Far From Home, he falls for this scheme that you would think that Nick Fury wouldn't fall for. But then you then understand, okay, then it's not actually Nick Fury. It's an actual alien pretending to be Nick Fury. So,
did they point that out in Far From Home, or was that only come to light in the
no.
movies
They
afterwards?
actually point it out at the end. Yeah.
That's interesting. I would love to have a personal Skrull. Like just a Monday, you can't be asked to go to work. Go on, Skrull. Do my evil bidding. Just like wearing my suit and stuff. And like as they're walking out the door, you're like, damn, you look good. I look good. That would be great. I wish I had a personal Skrull. That'd be interesting. I'd be keen to see that. I think there's a lot of Marvel movies I need to catch up on. I haven't seen Captain Marvel. I haven't seen most of the new Spider-Man movies, which are supposed to be quite good. I half watched Doctor Strange recently. I need to give that another go because that was actually supposed to be quite good. And the new Doctor Strange movie as well, into the Multiverse of Madness. I feel like I need to give it another go. Just can't watch too many superhero movies, especially if they throw that formulaic thing. But
I would say that they've tried to. I think the issue is they tried to do stuff differently for for what they call Phase 4. They've tried to make the films a bit different, but I think certain fans weren't too happy about.
What is this? The comedy sort of stuff, like with Thor, for example.
So, Thor, I think out of the Marvel films that came out last year, I would say that Thor was my least favorite. And I think Doctor Strange is a unique take on it. And also, I won't spoil it for you because you haven't seen it. And it's a really good film for you to watch. But it's the fact that they try and do it different, and it also opens the world to, basically in the title, the multiverse of Marvel.
Because then you're going to get... I mean, I roughly from just meme sites and just overhearing conversations, like how you'll get evil versions of certain characters pouring through into the universe. Like Wanda, for example. Is it Wanda? Yeah, Wanda, yeah. But again, I haven't seen it, so I can't really speak. But that's kind of cool because it's that sort of like two sides of the same coin, like sort of the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, like seeing two characters the same character could have gone down different paths just based on their choices. Like, this is why I love Loki, even though that's, again, that was more 2021, maybe.
I think, 2021.
Yeah, if the new Loki coming out this year?
I think it is, yeah, the new series.
I'm definitely going to watch that because that was brilliant. That was so good, so different, very, very different. Introduced a whole new dynamic, whole new universe, and it was so funny as well. Like when Loki encounters all the different Lokis, including Crocoloki or Croaky. Yeah, so funny. And it didn't overdo the comedy element like Thor: Love and Thunder did. So quite excited for that. I don't really know what else is coming out next year, though. I haven't really.
Same here. Like even on like the fantasy side, because we know that there isn't going to. I don't think there's going to be another Rings of Power season this year, and we know that the House of the Dragon is going to be 2024. So we do have the Dungeons and Dragons film.
Maybe? Dune?
Yeah, I think Dune. I think a Dune film's coming out this year, and we do have what we mentioned earlier. Dungeons and Dragons, that's coming out this year. It looks pretty good, but it kind of feels like this is like the make or break film for it. It's like if they do really well with the film and people like it, they can do more films.
Whether there have been previous attempts to bring Dungeons and Dragons to life.
It kind of feels like when a fantasy series tries, or sci-fi film tries, which isn't like one of the mainstream ones, tries to then create a film, and then if the film doesn't do well, they then push back the schedule for another 6 or 7 years. Because like I remember,
the genre's dead. Yeah,
my brother really liked Alex Rider, the Alex Rider books, and we took him to watch the film, and like the film was like really awful. Like it was like nothing like the books that he'd read. And I think then they were basically planning to do like 3 or 4 films after it. So because the film did so badly, they're like, you know what, scrap that. We're not going to go towards that film. Like another one is Aragon. That book
Aragon, yeah.
was going to have like
seeing a bit of the movie.
3 or 4 films based on the books, but then the first film didn't do very well. So then the studio said, you know what, because that hasn't done any well, we're not going to go through with the other films, and therefore we're putting that to the side. I
know, it's a shame because that kind of just delays everything, as you say.
And I think like with the Dungeons and Dragons film, if it doesn't like hit off and doesn't like get a lot of fanfare and a lot of people interested in watching it, they'll basically say that, you know what, it's not the right time for the Dungeons and Dragons universe. We'll put that to the side, bring up the next sci-fi or fantasy and see if that works.
I know, and that's a shame because then universes that have been really popular, for example, like the Dark Knight Batman series, if you know any of my friends, I'm constantly quoting it. Arjun, I love you. I hope you're watching this. Maybe we should do it. I'd love to do a special about the Dark Knight trilogy, Christopher Nolan's Batman movies. The thing is I feel like they're working it to death a little bit, because then you've got Ben Affleck's Batman and the Justice League stuff, which I thought was okay, actually. I thought he had more of a grumpy Batman, but still kind of cool. But because I just really didn't like the Justice League movies. I watched Batman vs Superman and laughed at how bad it is. Like, as a symbol of how bad of a movie it was. There's a scene where Batman is training to fight Superman, and the way he's doing it is just picking up a giant hammer, and just smacking a giant tire. I was like, is that a normal exercise routine? Like, it just seemed like a metaphor for the whole movie about how dumb it was.
Some people, I know some people do that as in like a form of exercise, but I'm like,
seems like you're
fighting like Superman, like getting an extra 2 kilos of muscle isn't going to help you.
Yeah, exactly. And he doesn't kill Superman because they have the same.
They wanted to show like how much strain and prep he's going to put in, but like maybe they should have. Another thing that people say that they don't show with Batman is like, he is a skilled martial artist. Why don't they ever... Like, he could have practiced some of his martial arts, and then the fans would be like, oh, yeah, that's part of what he does.
Yeah, rather than training as if just... Yeah,
like training to for a strongman competition. Like, and I think, to your point, is that I think what Marvel did, which was very clever, is that they kind of waited and then built the universe the way they wanted to, and then developed it that way. But then with like the issue with DC is that you have too many. So you've got like 3 Batmans within a space of 15 years, and each person loves. Well, probably less people love the Ben Affleck Batman, but a lot of people are like, oh no, Robert Pattinson's Batman is the younger audience. Like he's really good. And
I thought that was a decent. Yeah, I thought he was actually pulled off decently.
Yeah,
more of an emo, I guess.
And then people are asking the question like, okay, then are they going to continue with him? But then the director said, oh no, that's a separate universe that isn't linked to everything that happened with like Black Adam, Wonder Woman, and Superman. And then when James Gunn came in, he's like, you know what, Henry Cavill, we no longer need you for Superman. We want to take a younger Superman, which I think is kind of like a really, really upsetting for like Henry Cavill, because like I remember, I think the first time I saw him was like my sister showed me like Midsummer Murders. He's in an episode like as a secondary school child, and then I think the first time I saw him in cinema was in what is that?
Man of Steel?
No, there was a film called Stardust.
Right.
With Charlie Cox in it. It's also got Robert De Niro. Ricky Gervais is also in it as well. And like he was like a side character in that film. And it's kind of weird that both of them then became superheroes, like Charlie Cox being Daredevil, him being Superman.
Yeah, Charlie Cox. I love Daredevil.
And then the fact that he then went on to like, oh, Henry Cavill's going to be this huge actor. He's Superman. They got rid of that. He's Witcher. They got rid of that. And I think, to your point, like,
what's the common denominator? Henry Cavill's ruining it. Nah, he's not.
He's not. And I think it's just like Warner Brothers didn't know what they were doing, and they haven't known what they've done until they brought like James Gunn, who is the director for the Guardians of the Galaxy films. They've made him the co-president of DC, and like he wants to like create DC and take it from like some of the comic books and say, we want to have a younger Superman. Mm-hmm. We're going to have a Batman, which will not be linked to Robert Pattinson's Batman. It'll be a new one.
And yet another So this is what I was going to say, that they overdo some universes because it's become popular and now milking it too much.
Yeah, and like you've also gone like, people forget like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is not linked to any Batman. Like there's no Batman in his films, and they've said that's its own universe. So then you're thinking to yourself, then you've got Jared Leto's Joker, who's then linked to the Ben Affleck's Batman, and then Ben Affleck isn't coming back to be... I think he might come back for the Flash film, which we don't know when it's going to come out because Ezra Miller, the actor, has issues and has had legal issues. He's had mental health issues. So we don't know when that's coming out. And then basically James Gunn said that Gal Gadot, the woman who plays Wonder Woman, that she might not be back to play Wonder Woman. We don't know if Jason Momoa is going to come back after the Aquaman film this year. We're not sure if he's coming back. So then you're like, So then I've literally put all the hours of watching all the stuff that people have said haven't been that great, and then you're basically saying, clean slate, we're bringing all these new people in, and then you're thinking to yourself, then all those hours spent watching all that stuff was then wasted.
I know, I've invested my life in this stuff. It's very hard for me to sit there and watch these movies. I'm not being that sarcastic, but yeah, it gets tiring. People get fatigued, you know. It's like with Marvel doing the similar like layout for each superhero movie, but just constantly renewing the same genre over and over again, like different actor. And you know, like I thought the Batman, that was a good movie, but it felt like it had been done and tested. You know, that appealing to the darker side of Batman, like what makes DC different from Marvel, and it's that gritty darkness and reality. And the Christopher Nolan Batman's amazing. I love that so much. I just felt like the Batman was good, but it just felt unnecessary. You know?
Yeah, I agree, and I think like Robert Pattinson did a really good job, and I think the way they wanted it was, we want a Batman, like his first year, he's just finished his first year as being Batman. So what his life would be like. And I think, to your point, you'll get to the stage where people are like, yeah, but we've seen that in another Batman. And they've run out of the different stories and different ways you can tell stories about Batman. And I think that's kind of where I think Marvel kind of has like the leg up. That growing up, Marvel was Spider-Man, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Hulk. But then because they didn't have the rights to any of those characters, it was like, all right, we need to build up Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. So therefore, if we then want to put those three on the shelf, because we've got recognition of the X-Men, recognition of Fantastic Four, and Spider-Man, we can also then meld in smaller characters with the Netflix shows, Jessica Jones, The Punisher.
Yeah, the Defenders.
The Defenders group. So literally you could
Daredevil.
then... The clever thing that Marvel have done is like we can then put, which they've done, Captain America, Iron Man, and I think Chris Hemsworth's also taking a break from acting because of medical reasons. That they then can focus on other superhero characters that they've built up in the comics and have built up over time.
Yeah, like Black Widow. Yeah.
Or like all old characters which they've been able to, which have their own, like the X-Men or Fantastic Four or Hulk or Spider-Man, which they haven't been able to use because they haven't had the rights to them and still have a huge fan following.
Yeah, is there going to be a move to bring in the X-Men into the Marvel universe?
Yes. There is Hugh Jackman is going to be in the next Deadpool film, and that's going to be set in the MCU, the Marvel universe. And that's going to be the first time we're going to see like mutants in it. And I think that is really going to be cool because
I wonder how they're going to explain that.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because you haven't seen Doctor Strange. I know how they can say they brought them in, but I think it kind of also feels like they have a plan, Marvel. Like even if they've made mistakes, even if some of the plan is cliche, at least you can kind of see like a thread of where things are going and the direction it's heading. But with like DC, it keeps feeling like, okay, we're making a film that's going to do, we're going to try and make a film that does well, but we don't know how we're then going to connect it to all of the others. And I think you did have the original Justice League film that they then, what was the director's name again? Zack Snyder made his, but then they were like, oh no, it's too long, we don't want this, we don't want that. Then Joss Whedon made his version that the fans butchered and the fans hated to the core. And then people like bring back the Snyder version. They're like, oh yeah, well great, because the fans want it, we'll bring it back. But then this is the end of everything Snyder for DC. That's the end of it. So then the fans have gone through like a 3, maybe 2.5 hour film, and then realizing that that's it. Nothing in this story is going to go any further. And it's like
bottomless pit. Oh no, just dead end. Yeah.
And I think that's what really like ticks me off with like DC and Warner Brothers is that literally the Warner Brothers have had the rights to DC Comics for like the last 30, 40 years. Like, what is the excuse of not getting an actual plan to develop your films? And like, it's weird because you also hear about all the different films that get rejected because they were scared that they wouldn't do well. but then you've got films that were done by Marvel that they thought wouldn't do well, but then they were able to then build from and learn from. Like the first like Captain America film was okay. It wasn't like out of the park, but then they built from that into the Avengers film and then built into that for the second Captain America film and the third one. Like if you think about Thor, the first film was pretty good. The second film was and then the third film was really good.
Dark World, yeah.
And like even like if you look at Iron Man, the first one was really good. The second one was okay, and the third one, the story. Some people liked the plot twist in the third film. Some people
who the bad
didn't.
guy was,
and some people didn't. But they still took a gamble and still continued, and then learned from that, and then they took it further. They realized, okay, then we don't need to have like an Iron Man film. We can put Iron Man in Spider-Man. We can put Iron Man in the Captain America Civil War film.
I don't like it. I don't like it when they introduce new characters, but they just combine them in. They haven't given it time to develop. Like Justice League, they just threw all these characters in, and then they develop them afterwards. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's them. I think they just at first didn't want to be too Marvel and be like, give each one a film and then bring them together. They're like, no. We just need Batman and Superman, and then we can bring them together and then bring these other people with them. And then you're like, it's not going to really make that much sense. And like even like Batman versus Superman, if you watch the trailer, you literally have watched the film.
Yeah, pretty much. They give out way too much.
And then that's why, like in Marvel, whether it's a TV series, and I think Star Wars has started to do it as well with its trailers for their films, not trailers for their TV shows as well as films, is that they put a lot of information in, and some of that stuff isn't even taken into the TV series or the film. It gets removed, and they don't explain the storyline. They just show the actors or what's gonna. They show like the actors who are in the film. They show the action scenes which are in the film, but don't say a direct storyline from start to finish of how the film starts, what's the middle, and how it's going to end. And I think that's the clever thing. Like in
trailers,
like Batman vs Superman, the surprise was supposed to be that Wonder Woman is in the film, and then they literally put her in the trailer. Like you could have had a major surprise, or the fact that they said that Doomsday was the main villain. That could have been another surprise, but they put that in the trailer.
Well, it's probably because they just couldn't show, as you say, they couldn't show anything else. But one of my neighbors, he makes trailers, and I'd love to have him on board actually, because he could tell us all the little tricks that they put in trailers that help people going. Like a lot of, especially big like blockbuster action movies, they always have the same soundtrack in the trailer. Like always has like a and it drops and then like big epic scene. Yeah, they always have that, and trailers sometimes even don't display what actually goes on in the movie. So, for example, Starship Troopers, I was reading an article about how Starship Troopers was originally supposed to be more of a satire about basically space fascism, like a militaristic human civilization in the future, and fighting the bugs was supposed to be symbolic of like sort of fascism, social Darwinistic views. But the trailers, when it came out, had to present it differently because people were like, this ain't going to sell. Like, we need to make a big action blockbuster movie. And when you watch Starship Troopers, it has weird moments of satire in it, like little ad breaks talking about the Federation and stuff. So they make these decisions for the trailers because they just want to, like, get everyone into it and get a bigger audience.
And, like, I would really like to get him on because, like, there is a maths and science to developing trailers. Like, especially action films. If it's a war film, especially set in like the 70s onwards, there is going to be some form of rock music in it.
Yeah,
just basically taking
the
from
Hendrix.
Apocalypse Now, basically taking from there. And like and I think one of the things that you do see in films is that if it's an action scene where people are like fighting, so especially if it's fighting with like swords and shields, is that their movements are in with the beat of the music.
Yeah.
And I think that is very clever that they do in trailers.
Yeah, it's true. We're coming for you, Matt. We need you on this show. Don't know if he watches, but I'll put the vibes out there. Well, it's been a year. Of course it's been a year. It's been a big year. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Feels like the world's really moved on. Feels like COVID's very distant time away, but we are speaking from the UK. Some countries aren't so lucky. But it's certainly been a big year for the UK. A lot of weird stuff going on. A lot of interesting stuff going on in the nerd world. And, you know, as we said earlier, we've got a lot on the cards. We've got more specials pumping up. We're going to do The Matrix. We're going to do The Witcher. We're going to do Star Trek. We're going to do...
Dune as well.
Dune, yeah, thank you.
Warhammer as well. Probably break that down into
We're going to have
two.
Henry Cavill on this. I'm going to get Henry Cavill.
Yes, yeah. Convince him.
I'm coming for you, Henry. Yeah, we've got a lot. You know, we want to hear from you, our guests. If you want to come on for... to be a guest host, feel free to get in contact with either the Pick Up the Mic network run by our overlord Jeffrey, or feel free to leave a comment on one of our YouTube videos, unless you know of a better way, maybe.
I think, yeah, or if you see any of the posts on like LinkedIn or Instagram, then put a comment there as well, which would be nice as well. Or even send a message to the profiles. That would be helpful.
Perfect. Excellent. Yep, that works. And we'd love to have you on board. And maybe I feel like there's actually more an inexhaustible amount of nerdy stuff we could talk about. But I would love to do a history hit at some point, maybe a history spin-off show. That would be cool. But yeah, everyone, thank you so much for giving us such a wonderful year. I hope 2023 gives you less misery and more good news than what we've had over the past 3 years.
Yeah. And hopefully, I've heard like COVID cases are going up, so hopefully nothing major, no lockdowns for anyone.
Touch wood, yeah.
And also more things to like stream and for us to talk about. We have talked about things that are coming up, but hopefully there are surprises that come out of nowhere that just shock us, whether it's a film, game, TV series, or even a book.
Or aliens landing on planet Earth. That would be cool.
Depends, because like I was reading like an article, this I think a guy from NASA was basically, they did this study at NASA and they brought in like historians, and they said that if aliens did come to Earth, it means that they would then have a more advanced technology than us, and that what happened to the Aztecs, the Incas, what happened to them would happen to us. So the best thing would be to just kill them.
Hey, look at the Avatar movies. Look, we do. It's us in their shoes, basically. Yeah, exactly. Stay away from those aliens. Don't let them anal probe you. That's all I'm saying. So, go on. You can say.
I was just gonna say, like, based off of what you said, like with the Skrull, like, I think with Secret Invasion, is that how cool it is that the aliens would then manipulate human society. Like, if you think about it, there would be humans who'd be like, know that they're aliens, but wouldn't give a damn because they're like, oh, they can give me this tech or this money or this, or basically being able to manipulate people. And I think people should also really take a big one for this, because they've got like major actors in this, and I think it is a TV series as well. And I know, for example, it's going to be on Disney Plus, so you can stream it with friends, you can watch it with friends. And I think it is going to be something like, it's going to like set the tone for what they're going to do with Marvel going into the future. And also could be a way that we can get the Fantastic Four, we can get Blade, we can get other major characters into the Marvel universe as well.
Yeah, that would be cool. I would love to see Blade in there. I love Wesley Snipes' Blade, like, so cool. Especially the first movie. I might rewatch that tonight, who knows.
Yeah. I actually rewatched it recently and I was like, yeah, I realized why I liked it so much.
His one-liners are so good. It's so badass. Like, kicks the vampires' asses so badly. But yeah, that's all, folks, for this year, even though we are actually recording in 2023. But you don't know that. Again, being our viewers, we couldn't do it without you. We couldn't do it without you taking my profile, an image of myself and turning it into a profile picture on YouTube, or saying that we're masturbators, You are what we strive for, and we want to be there for you. We would love to have you on the show, so remember to message, and please click subscribe if you want to find out more. Click the notification button, leave a comment, or just leave a like. And don't forget to tune into some of the other segments on the Pick Up the Mic Umbrella podcast network, run by our overlord Jeffrey, who's always the puppet master working behind the scenes. So, on that, we shall leave it there. Have fun, folks. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, folks.
Bye-bye.